7 cities built
by JT.
Point lead on
This is NBA Showtime, the 1996 NBA Conference Finals. Here's your host, Bob Costas.
Last year, the Utah Jazz and the Seattle SuperSonics both lost in the first round of the playoffs. This year, one of them will play for a title. It's Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals from Key Arena in Seattle. Hi, everybody. Bob Costas with Peter Vecsey and Dr. J. Conference Finals underway. Utah, Seattle today, Orlando and Chicago tomorrow. Let's get to the Jazz and the Sonics. This NBA season started 6.5 months ago. The very first night of the season, Utah beat Seattle. But after that, the Sonics won 3 straight head-to-head, although, as you see, the first 2 were close, a 1-pointer and then a 2-pointer. 2 very different styles here. Utah likes the half-court game. Seattle wants to play up-tempo. Tom Hammond and the snapper, Steve Jones, will call it from Seattle. Tom.
Well, Bob, for Utah to win a game on the road against a rested and confident Seattle team will obviously take big game from John Stockton and from Karl Malone. But there's another part of their game that's been important. In fact, it's bench play. Coach Jerry Sloan says it's been decisive.
Well, the difference has been our bench, and we've said this all year long. When our bench has played well, we've been pretty competitive. We think we can compete against teams if our bench is really active and stays involved in the game and understand what's going on, and they've been able to do that in quite a few games in the playoffs.
Sloan makes a great point. The bench has been very important for Utah.
They have. Everyone said about the Utah Jazz they're a little long in the tooth, and that if their window of opportunities to come, it's to come now. But it's been the bench that's really been the difference. You look at how they dominated the San Antonio Spurs, and it all started with Mr. Russell. He did a big job in the Portland series, and everyone's picked up on it since then.
Well, speaking of unexpected playoff forces, for Seattle, Detlef Schrempf has been unstoppable.
You know, Detlef Schrempf is a quiet and consistent performer. Against the Houston Rockets, he was there at the critical time for George Karl, and against the Utah Jazz, he has been consistent in scoring from the field and the free throw line. That makes a big difference.
And in this series, Coach George Karl says the key to winning for Seattle is stopping the control game of Utah.
They are a control basketball team. They like to control what you get and what they get. And we got to play that game somewhat. But I don't think we can force our disruption or aggressiveness. We got to find times for that. Because I think if we play smart, we can play with their control game. We don't have to change character. But it's their great decision-making versus maybe our versatility.
And there's another factor at work here, and that is the fatigue factor. It was only Thursday night that Utah closed out San Antonio. And for more on that, let's go to Hannah Storr.
Well, Tom, certainly it is a question about the fatigue as the Jazz have played 6 games in the last 10 days. I just chatted with Karl Malone about that issue, and he says that, yes, they are well aware they could use a couple of days off. They're a little bit banged up, but he said their preference, because they are playing so well, is to get right back into the series, just to keep on playing. He said that is much preferable than taking a couple of days off. Now, on the other side, the Sonics have had almost a week off after disposing of the Rockets last Sunday, and Nate McMillan told me that the attitude in the locker room is now as if they were starting the playoffs all over again. They've had such a long break. He said it may take the entire first half of the game for them to get rid of some of the jitters that they have, some of the anticipation, and to get their timing back. And now this note for you fashion-conscious guys back there in the Showtime studio. Well, George Karl has informed me that he is going to go tieless the rest of the playoffs if they keep winning. If you notice, he has not worn a necktie the entire playoffs except for Mother's Day, which he says is a formal occasion. And he says if they keep winning, he will continue to wear his turtlenecks and his T-shirt. So apparently George Karl settling either for a loss or a tie. Let's send it back to New York.
Very nice wordplay by Hannah, who, by the way, has not worn a tie for any of these games herself. Speaking of the bench, although actually, if they make the finals, Carl should probably don a tuxedo for that, right? Right. Speaking of the bench, let's elaborate on that. Guys like Russell and Eisley really have been key for Utah.
And the intriguing thing about that, Bob, is that before the trading deadline, the Jazz tried to trade Russell or David Benoit. Why? They weren't happy with Howard Eisley as a backup point guard. So they didn't trade either of those guys, and look what happens. They emerge in the Portland series and the Spurs series, and sometimes the best trades are the ones you do not make.
Now, on the other side, Doc, Detlef Schrempf is talked about as a kind of X factor, a guy who's 6'10", yet handles the ball like a guard. He can be very tough to figure out for the opposition.
Well, Detlef is a prime example of the Sonics' versatility. They have big guys who can go outside, shoot three-pointers, as well as handle the ball. They have little guys who like to go down low, who like to post up. And then you have the Defensive Player of the Year and Gary Payton, and all the Sonics play pretty good defense. Defense triggers their offense. And, you know, that's one of the things that they're going to have problems with the Jazz, because they rely on steals and block shots, and the Jazz don't give up too much of that stuff because Stockton primarily handles the ball and Karl Malone doesn't get his shot blocked too often.
All right, so Game 1 of the Jazz and Sonics coming up. Game 1 in the Eastern Conference Finals is tomorrow. A 1-hour edition of Showtime begins at 2:30 Eastern. Earlier today, the Magic practiced in Orlando. Both teams will be well rested after winning their previous series in 5 games. Orlando is traveling to Chicago this afternoon. The Bulls, meanwhile, worked out at the United Center, and that group included Tony Kukoc, who will play tomorrow. It's a series that both teams and a lot of basketball fans have anticipated all season.
The hype of Chicago, Orlando, and the Eastern Conference Finals has been going on for so long, even when the regular season was going on, and everybody had been waiting on this matchup, and you know, it's time to get it on Sunday.
We believe that the pressure's all on them in terms of their whole season being successful, in terms of, you know, winning 72 games, and you know, I think it would definitely be incomplete if they didn't win a championship.
From the time that the season was over last year, we generated our personnel on this ball club towards the fact that Orlando would be the team that would be in the running next year. This is next year. This is the time we set up to win this series. We've got the personnel we think can win it, and we believe in ourselves.
Last year we had a lot of question marks, and we came with a lot of different approaches. And, you know, a lot had to do with me. A lot had to do with me not being accustomed to playing with these guys. You know, hopefully this year's been a proving ground for us to be together and prove ourselves.
You know what? If Phil Jackson does play Shaquille O'Neal one-on-one heads up, then Nick Anderson and Dennis Scott are going to have to find a way to get into the offense. They're not going to have those open looks off double teams that they've had in previous series. So they either have to post up their men or their teammates have to start setting screens with them. But it's imperative that they get into that offense.
You know, Michael talks there about improvement, and I see the Orlando Magic, last year's NBA runner-up, as being an improved team in every area statistically, including victories, except for free throw shooting. They're going to be their Achilles heel. But if Horace Grant stays hot and the defense stays focused, the Orlando Magic have a very good chance of upsetting the favorite Bulls.
Well, talk about that free throw shooting. No team is better positioned to employ that Hack-a-Shaq strategy than the Bulls, with 4 centers, Edwards and Sally and Wennington and Longley, lots of fouls to give. Now, Shaq shot only 49% from the line during the regular season, but in the playoffs, he's done some real bricklaying. 40%. I mean, those are numbers that would make Wilt cringe.
Right, but you know, as powerful as he is, Bob, you'd hope that he'd make one of those shots or a number of those shots. It wouldn't be so noticeable if he went to the line and only blew one of them, but he's going to the line and blowing 2. But I think the key here in this series is Scottie Pippen. I mean, this guy had a terrible series against the Knicks. Everybody's talking about his back. I don't know if it's his back. I do know that his ankle, his right one, has bothered him throughout the series. I'm sorry, at the end of the season where he had to take that long rest. And I've been told that he's going to need surgery after the Olympics on that ankle. In fact, he might even have his knee scoped after the Olympics.
So that is tomorrow, Game 1, Chicago-Orlando, maybe the most anticipated Eastern Conference final since the old days in the 70s and 80s when the Celtics and the 76ers seemed to always be going at it with a trip to the finals at stake. Last year, the Jazz and the Sonics both exited the playoffs early. This year, the San Antonio Spurs are the ones shaking their heads. What went wrong? We'll explore that when NBA Showtime continues.
I got Prime Star because I love news and sitcoms and dramas and sports. I always wanted to play football. Oh. Maybe not. Okay, so I admit I love TV. And with Prime Star's 95 channels, I get it all in digital, picture, and sound. You want to know the best part? You don't have to buy the dish. Prime Star is a service. There's no equipment to buy. And it all starts at about $1 a day. Enjoy.
Call 1-800-PRIME-STAR.
You're no stranger to the sunrise. You know dedication is keeping a promise to yourself. You do what you dream about. You're going to Atlanta. What do you wear? Champion. Outfit of the U.S. Olympic team.
All your favorite NBA players. 4 new card designs. 5 collectible insert sets. 2 limited edition cards per pack. Fleer NBA basketball. Oh yeah, watch out for hot packs.
No one knows why they play Follow the Leader, but at least we know who they've been following. Sea-Doo, the best-selling boat in the world.
Showtime returns with a look back at the Spurs and Jazz in Game 6 Thursday night. First quarter, Karl Malone with the jumper. The Jazz take the lead. Karl wound up with 25. 14 seconds into the second, David Robinson picks up his 3rd foul. Obviously, Coach Bob Hill doesn't agree with the call. More on that later. Still in the second quarter, the Jazz break the game open. Chris Morris with the 3 as they go on a 20-6 run. In the third, more of the same, Malone with the dunk. David Robinson held scoreless in the first half, gets 17 in the second, but it didn't matter by then. And finally, Adam Keefe, who contributed 18 to the cause with the exclamation point. The Jazz, with plenty of reason to celebrate, they go on to face Seattle. As for the Admiral, his season ends, and afterwards, he had plenty to say about the officiating.
I think it was personal. I think that, you can't bring that crap on the court. If you make good calls. If you're going to make good calls, that's fine. But I think that was just garbage. I think I've disappointed these 12 guys in here. I got a lot of critics, and they'll have a field day with this, and that's fine. But I could care less about that. But I only care about those 12 guys in that locker room, and this is this is the low part of sports.
The main thing for us is just continue to just stick together, keep the team together, like some of the other teams that have done that, won championships, and just keep trying at it. It's just tough, though.
There's no need to cry wolf or to cry anything characteristics of what we've done in the past. They just spanked us this series. They outplayed us. We're going to come back in and rebound next season and go a little bit further.
I'm proud of the Spurs. I think we've done a lot of great things in the 2 years. We got to the finals last year, and we're in position to fight back this year in the second round. I'm proud of what we've accomplished. I think just the contrary. I think we're headed in the right direction.
They made the conference finals a year ago, knocked out in the second round this time, and their 4 losses by 20, 30, 15, and 27 points. Average margin of defeat, 23.
Well, if it's close, you get a chance to second guess. But these games were blowouts. So, there's no questioning here that A to Z, you got to evaluate the Spurs organization. Coaching, superstar or superstars, and supporting cast. And when you think about their supporting cast, many of those guys who play significant roles for San Antonio would not have such roles if they were one of the members of the Final 4 teams that are in the NBA.
Okay, assuming that's true, how do they get better?
Very tough, Bob. They're locked in contractually to David Robinson long-term, Sean Elliott long-term, Chuck Person, Avery Johnson, Charles Smith. They don't have a #1 draft pick. I thought during that last huddle of Game 6 in Utah, I thought I saw Bob Hill unlacing Charles Smith's laces But they're a lot of trouble.
And pining away for Rodman?
Exactly.
Well, as David Robinson said, despite his many accomplishments, he does have critics, and those critics gained ammunition from this series.
Well, just to put a historical slant on it, you know, David has a dilemma. He's a high-scoring center, very much like a Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. You know, Bill Russell, conversely, on the other hand, was a guy who's averaged 15, 16 points a game. He could make the players around him better with his defense, his playmaking, other things, and not have the burden of having to score. You know, David needs the luxury of having maybe some better players around him who can get their own stuff.
Particularly a superstar. Sean Elliott is an all-star, but when it comes to the playoffs, he doesn't step up, he steps out. You look historically back through the championship years, every championship team, with the exception of the 75 Warriors, Rick Barry, and the 94 Rockets with Akeem Olajuwon, every team had another great player. They had two great players on those teams, and this team does not have that.
Just playing devil's advocate here, that's true in the regular season too, and it seems in some of the playoff series, David doesn't perform as well as he has in the regular season, and the criticism that he's soft at crunch time comes up. I'm not saying it's my opinion, it's what you hear.
Bob, because the teams are able to prepare for him, they double and triple team him. Utah showed no respect for anybody else on the Spurs by double and tripling teaming David Robinson. What could he do? He had a pass.
All right, so the Spurs have to wait till next year, and one of the big reasons why, Utah's Karl Malone. When we come back, we'll hear from the mailman, and first, though, we step aside for these messages.
Gravity by Foot Locker. Of all the laws of nature, you are my least favorite.
It's not your fault you exist, but gravity.
You are no friend of mine. You do not belong in my house, though you show up every morning. I defy you, Gravity. You are not my obstacle.
That grin you see, that's me knowing I will beat you.
If only for an instant. Even if it's just for an instant. Foot Locker, where it all begins and gravity ends.
那生意怎么了？
不太妙，市场部老是收不到工程部的最新数据。
你需要 Lotus Notes 在网络上自动复制更新的数据，这样每个人都可以随时得到最新的信息，甚至是环球网上。
这样就能知己知彼，百战百胜。
一点儿也没错。
Yo, let's talk flips, top stadium club extreme basketball 95. TSC is just the choice cuts, juice with inserts like the mailman and Sir Charles living in the power zone. And check out Big Dog and Mash, laser cut on the Bean Team. This ain't no love story, it's Reggie versus Starks, Kenny versus Penny. They're going nose to nose, they're nemesis. Top Stadium Club, Julius math and info, solid snaps and slamming subsets. It's basketball in extreme.
You're no stranger to the sunrise. You know dedication is keeping a promise to yourself. You do what you dream about. You're going to Atlanta. What do you wear? Champion. Outfit of the U.S. Olympic team.
Tonight, the secrets of the world's greatest magicians. You'll see a woman sawed in half. And the most dangerous trick of all, the one Houdini was too scared to do, one man will try. Lance Burton, buried alive. The Hidden Secrets of Magic, NBC tonight.
Now in his 11th season in the NBA, Karl Malone has been one of the most durable players in league history, missing just 4 games in his career despite his very physical style. Now, Malone is coming off a series in which he pretty much had his own way with the Spurs' David Robinson. His next assignment is Seattle's Shawn Kemp. Malone and the Jazz have never been to the finals, so he hopes this is the year his name is removed from this list. The top scorers in NBA history who have never won a title. Jim Gray spoke with Malone.
Double to Karl, covered up, the ball man. Back up to Karl Malone, who lets fly with a three-pointer and buries it.
You've been vocal and you've said to me in the past that you feel as though you need a championship to be considered a great player. As time winds down on your career and you get another opportunity now, do you still feel that, or do you feel as though you can be considered a great player without it?
Well, for the
for the so-called experts of the game, okay, that's what I probably need to be considered that. But I think being considered a great player in my eyes is giving it everything you got and try to make your teammates better around you.
You got it back, Stock, if you want it. You got it back if you want it.
Have you and the Utah Jazz been sold short?
You always see no respect here, no respect there. I definitely think we were sold short, even in the Portland series.
Does it really matter, though, Carl, what people think?
Probably 7, 8 years ago, it would have, but it don't really matter what people say anymore. I think what matters to me now is people know what kind of person you are. Because one of these days, basketball is going to start bouncing, and then how you want to be remembered. Do you want to be remembered as a great basketball player or a great person? This is a roller coaster business, and if you don't like roller coasters, you shouldn't get in this business because you're high one day and you're down the next day.
You just see 500 ball for the rest of the season looming in front of you. Is that what's depressing?
Well, actually, with what's happening now, I see it the rest of my career, and that's what I don't like.
You've been disappointed in the past, Carl, with the depth on this team. Do you feel as though now there is enough in your arsenal to carry this thing through, that there's more than character, now quality players?
Without a doubt. I think that character's going on to take you so far. Then you got to have the talent. And it's neat now. Our bench is starting to get the credit they deserve because they've won some games for us throughout this playoff series. And I'm happy with the progress we made because we didn't push the panic button when we lost out in the first round for 2 or 3 years and, had big leads and lost that.
You said that the Utah Jazz have a different way of doing things. How so?
Well, I think that, it's been said in the past in the paper, get rid of Stockton, get rid of Malone, but we don't make wholesale changes here, A lot of people say, we win just enough to tease the fans. That's not it. I got a pretty good relationship with Larry, and I just asked him point blank, do you want to get rid of me or you want to get rid of Stockton? He said, hey, the day I do that is the day I'm getting rid of the team.
Malone, watch out, he hit hard. Left hand, yep, he hit hard.
You hurt your wrist, you hurt your finger, you hurt your elbow, you hurt your shoulder. Tell us about the spill the other night. Are you ready to play and okay?
Jim, I played this game with injuries a whole lot worse than this, and one thing I never did, and I don't believe in it, is excuses. And I don't have one now, and I never will have one. I'm fine.
Even when you've had an excuse, has it become kind of a, for lack of a better word, a macho thing? You've got this streak going where you've missed so few games over all these years. If you really were hurt, would you say, hey, Jerry, I can't play today?
No, I don't think I would say that because, it's sort of a macho thing. To me, it's personal not to miss ball games.
Carl, what's your response when you hear everybody say that the Bulls in Orlando are playing for the championship?
We realize that the spotlight will be on the East, and then, oh, by the way, they got a West game. So we understand that.
With a spectacular goal!
Whoever come out of the West or the East, I think it's going to be a great show.
So you should not discount the winner of the West.
Please don't.
The winner of this series, the Bulls in Orlando, they have no free ride when they get to the finals?
Please don't. That's a mistake if you do.
Doc, through the years, Karl Malone has been one of the most statistically consistent players in the NBA. But even though the numbers don't change much, you have seen a change in his game.
Definitely, Bob. I've been watching him since his rookie year, and looking at Karl now, I see him playing the best basketball of his career all around. Before it was points and rebounds, I did my job. Now he's contributing in so many other ways. He's passing the ball great, defensive rebounding. He's guarding the other team's superstar. He's diving for loose balls. Contributions like that not only lead a team, but it inspires a team, and that's what's happening here.
Let's take a look at the marquee matchup. With apologies to the Charles Barkley rooting section, a lot of people would say these now are the two premier power forwards in the league. Malone got the best of it in the 4 regular season games. Shawn Kemp managed only 8 shots per game against the Jazz, where he averages 12 shots a game for the season, and he shot 56% during the regular year, only 37.5 against the Jazz.
Well, clearly Utah is going to stick with this matchup, but I see George Karl possibly taking Kemp off Malone and putting Irvin Johnson on him, at least until he gets in foul trouble, or at least until Malone eats him up, because in the previous series, I thought the Spurs made a mistake when they didn't put Will Perdue on Karl Malone. Once Bob Hill began to start him, he kept David Robinson on Malone, and that was a bad matchup. I don't think George Karl's going to make the same mistake.
Well, we'll see coming up shortly. And as we get set for the start of the Western Conference Finals, this note, Utah's only 1-4 on the road in the playoffs, but that win was Game 1 against San Antonio, which, of course, set the tone for the entire series. So coming up, it's Game 1 of the Jazz and Sonics from Seattle. Tom Hammond and Steve Snapper Jones have the call. The NBA playoffs on NBC continue with the conference finals right after these messages from your local station.
Sean Claude Van Damme in Hard Target, NBC tonight. Parental discretion advised.